Welcome to Collection Chronicles, the podcast that brings the world of collections closer to you. With us today is Carly.
Hello, I'm back.
Finally.
What do you mean finally? I
Well,
was
we
on
missed you.
vacation.
She took off on us.
How was it?
It was good. It was really hot. I only got sick 5 times.
Only.
I was there for 5 days. I got sick 5 times.
And this was Florida.
Yeah, it was Orlando.
It's because it was Florida.
It was so humid.
Oh, I'm
Can't
so
do it.
sorry for you.
Oh, thank you.
Got a great tan though, I think. Great
Oh,
tan
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
My whiteness was just like,
It was
Surprising.
dulled,
Yeah.
just like by a
yeah,
percentage.
I came back. One of the first things Greg said to me was, "You didn't even get tan."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's because I'm white, Greg. Like, I don't tan. I burn and then it goes away the next day.
It's funny. I actually came back with a tan.
No, I was suspicious as a boss. I'm like,
Yeah.
did you really go to Orlando?
Yeah,
Or
I
you
did.
just...
I did.
Yeah, I know. We were checking on you.
Yeah.
We had
No.
a PI running.
I just like, I'm so white. I burn, then it goes away the next day. I don't know.
Well, it looks great to me. I think that's a great tan.
Gee,
So
thanks.
I
There you
think
go.
I
Thank
think
you.
you're all right.
Thanks.
Also with us today is Tanya.
Hi. I'm keeping it simple. Don't even say nothing about no other language. Hi.
No, that's passé now. We
I
don't
know
have
it
that
is.
anymore.
It's over now.
It's done.
Oh well.
And me, Greg Matinsky, Go Beyond Collection Agency CEO. With us today is Christian Hernandez. I always say Hernandez. Tell me how I should be pronouncing it.
Well, I think it's just Hernandez.
Hernandez.
When I go to Mexico, it's Hernandez.
Ooh.
I'm not Mexican. Look it. But yeah, so, whenever I go away in Spanish-speaking nation, right away they start spitting fire at me, Espanol, and no comprende. But, for me, Canadian as they come, ketchup all over my eggs, Hernandez.
Nice. Hernandez.
Christian Hernandez.
Christian Hernandez, the cash flow king. Christian works at...
What a title.
Yeah, it is.
Royalty in the house.
That's his
Royalty
ad on
in the house.
Instagram. I remember seeing your ad on Instagram.
It's
Oh,
really
wow.
cool.
It's working then, I guess.
Yeah.
It is.
Hey.
Like I've seen you've put on a dollar suit or something, like a super dollar. What was that?
Yeah, that was Cashman. Shout out to my wife Carly for making the best costume ever.
That's my name.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
my God.
Carly, my wife, not this Carly
You're
here.
not me.
I like them both though. I like both Carlys.
Oh my god!
I just got married, but not to him.
That's hilarious.
different one.
This is weird. So Christian is a sales maestro. I think we both listened to the Advanced podcast too.
Absolutely, love it. Shout out Brian Neal.
Yeah, shout out. And Christian was a senior collector at DNA Collections. So he knows all the collections. He knows how to collect. As a matter of fact, I think our managing partner wanted to get him on the floor. So he said, you can sit in and...
Yeah, you know what? I'm waiting for that formal offer. Dust off my old dialing fingers and start getting those piffs in. No sifs here. Piffs only.
See, that's the DNA spirit. So, Christian, thank you for coming on board with the podcast, or at the podcast. We have a bunch of questions that we prepared. I know I talked to you about it. I emailed you, but we're just going to freewheel it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do
Right?
this.
But tell me how you got involved in collections.
Yeah, so briefly and short as possible, I was at school. I was studying business administration, and I was working at the airport. Wasn't really getting the fulfillment that I wanted. So, as you tend to do, you start looking for a new place. And, sure enough, there was an ad in the paper. That's how long ago it was. I was looking through a newspaper for it. But there was an ad in paper. It said collections. And I said, you know what? What the hell? Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. And, went in, interviewed. They said, we like your voice, the tone.
Yeah, you do have a good voice.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
nice
you.
cadence.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
The
Go
cadence.
Barry White on you.
Oh no.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So I just kind of fell into it truthfully, and started off on a really small team. We did minor collection files. I think nothing more than $300 or whatever. So it was really easy to piff out because
Small balance desk.
yeah, you just
Yeah.
get those credit card numbers, and it's like, hey, let's take care of this. Let's get this over and done with, and move on. So they saw something in me, I guess, and they said, why don't you escalate it? So started going to commercial balances and higher balances, and
It
next
worked.
thing you know, it was a little bit more of a struggle, obviously, because you're dealing with that larger amount, and generally people are having a an issue or want to stand on principle. But,
Yeah.
you know, that's your job as a collector, is to, at the end of the day, listen to the problem and try and come up with a solution that suits both parties. Obviously, your client first and foremost. But at the same time, you are a human, right? So you can understand we're all consumers, and we hope that we don't get the bad end of the stick, so to speak. But, you know, sometimes it's more about, hey, do you want this to affect you for 7 years?
Yeah.
Or do you want to stand on your principles? What do you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So for a couple $100, it maybe is something that you want to say, get on with it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that approach.
Yep.
So how did you end up in factoring? Because I mean, that's little. I mean, it's related, but it's not the same.
Yeah, well, it's actually quite funny. So, you know, I did collections for quite some time, and unfortunately, as sometimes it happens, you know, you get a little bit stale. Truthfully, for me, it was my colleagues and my coworkers. For whatever reason, I just couldn't stand the sound of one particular collector's voice. I just couldn't stand it, you know?
We have that type of... Anyway, continue your story. Continue your story. I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say.
So, you know, it came to the point, literally, where I couldn't stand the sound of her voice. So I said, you know what? I'm kind of ready to move on and kind of try something else. So I graduated from newspaper clippings and decided to use the interweb or internet. And
Ooh, wow.
Do you know it's a tube of webs, by the way?
it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what
wow.
Anyway, we'll talk
Well,
about
you know
it
what?
later.
That answers a lot of questions for me. But yeah, so you know, I went on, found a posting for factoring, and it was through Robert Half Accounting Temp Agency. So I went in, and of course, it says no experience necessary. So I'm loving it. You know, I said, here, this interviewed, killed it. At least I thought I did. And she comes back at the end of the interview and says, you know, you'd be great, but they just want someone with experience. And I'm like,
Well,
in bold letters, he put no experience. What's going on here? So anyway, literally 5 minutes after I left, she called me back and she said, you know what? I'm going to recommend you. I think you're the right fit with your collection background. There's mild collections involved in this role. So I said, great. So I interviewed for the position, ended up landing the position with JD Factors, and became an account manager, account executive. So, you know, it was nice, although when I did my first collection call, I'm used to, you know, past due paper, third placements, fourth placements, whatever. This is current paper. This is
Right.
stuff that is, you know, 30 to 60 days old. Like, and here
it's
I
not
am.
even outstanding. It's just
It's just accounts receivable, right? And I was just literally pounding this guy saying, make a payment plan or let's go. I need this money. And my whole office was laughing at me. So they're like, whoa, tone it down a little bit. And it took a little bit while to find find the right
Find your
tone.
footing. Yeah.
But eventually I got it. So, you know, I guess I'm a pretty good stumbler because I stumbled into collections and I stumbled into factoring. But, you know, finding out about what factoring actually is, I really got behind the product and was like, this is something I want to be part of. So,
and that's, you know what, that's one of the questions that I have for you.
Yeah, I was gonna
'cause
ask that.
Yeah, what is
'cause
it?
what is factoring? Because I'm sure a lot of the listeners, consumers, and creditors have no clue what factoring actually means.
yeah, you know what? It's a great question. So factoring, simply put, is the conversion of an asset, your accounts receivable, into cash. So factoring is the process of taking an outstanding invoice and turning it into cash. So you don't have to wait to get paid. You don't have to.
So you're effectively selling your invoice to somebody else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the purchase of a receivable. So let's say that Greg is making widgets. He's making pens, and he has a deal with Walmart. And Walmart says, we want $1 million.
They're so cheap with me. Come on, man.
So Walmart says, hey, we love your pens. We love the caps, the colors, We want to buy 1 million of them. But Walmart says to you, we're going to buy 1 million pens, but we're not going to pay you for 120 days. So you, as the business owner, now have a decision to make. Do you, one, take the sale and wait 120 days, knowing that you have to pay your vendors, pay your employees, pay your overhead?
Right.
All of this cash flow is going to be something that's going to be a concern for waiting to get paid. So what factoring does is what we'll do is we'll buy that receivable so that you get paid right away rather than waiting the 120 days.
Because it's a guarantee at the 120 days, they're willing to wait that to buy it off.
So
That's right.
You take the risk for the.
Yeah, so there's it's important to understand there's two types of factoring.
Yeah.
One is a simple recourse based, which means that the lender, the factoring company, will give you the advance on your receivable. However, if your customer doesn't pay,
That's your problem.
You are essentially going to repay the customer. So the way factoring works is it gives you a percentage of the face value of the invoice.
Okay.
So if you have $1,000 invoice and we're advancing 80% or 90%, so that's $800, $900. If your customer doesn't pay typically after 90 days, you're not responsible for paying back that 800 or 900 you got. You have to pay back the full 1,000.
Oh,
okay.
So there's a lot of people going, oh, that's the catch.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, because somewhere somebody's gonna make money off of this transaction.
Hey, I always say my name is Christian, but I'm not a saint. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the first type of factoring, recourse-based factoring, which simply means that you're responsible at the end of the day.
Okay.
JD Factors, what we offer is exclusively non-recourse factoring.
And that to me is surprising because when you told me that, I thought, wow, who does that? So tell the people what.
Yeah, well,
is.
we're the industry leaders in Canada in regards to non-recourse factoring. That's exclusively what we offer. Our whole thought process is that we're willing to take on the risk. We want to help our small businesses grow. So what we can do is we're going to buy your invoice at 80 to 95%. We're then going to wait for it to collect. If your customer goes bankrupt, runs away, doesn't pay the bill, doesn't answer their phone, you keep my money. You keep my money. All I'm going to keep is that 10 to 20% that I held in trust. So I'm taking on that loss, and the company or the client is able to go ahead and keep that money and continue to operate. So, a perfect example of that, and this is the one that I like to use, is Target. We all heard of Target.
Yeah.
Everyone was excited about Target. Target's the
Didn't
best.
last long, did they?
I liked Target when it was here.
I think this should be our
liked it in the States.
collection chronicle. Where
Well, I'd be proud and pleased.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Target came here with much fanfare. Everyone was excited. It's Target. It's awesome. They have that shampoo I like, or the
Yeah.
socks that fit my ankles. I have big ankles, by the way. But that's another story. But anyway, so Target came here and everyone wanted to do business with them. So people said, "Oh, my customer's great. It's Target. They're huge. They're not going anywhere. I love them." I said, great. So what had happened was we had a T-shirt manufacturer that got a purchase order from Target for $75,000.
Okay.
Okay. So $75,000 is a big order for a small
lot of shirts.
business. It's a lot of shirts, a lot of costs, overhead. So they came to us and they discussed factoring, and we said, this is what it's going to entail. This is what the cost is going to be. And they kind of said, well, we don't know. Target's good. Maybe we'll just wait. I said, absolutely. That's your prerogative. That's your opportunity as a business owner, or decision to make, I should say. So we went our separate ways. 2 weeks later, they call me back. They say, Christian, we got a PO from Hudson Bay for $65,000. I'm like, great. Sounds like business is going well. Congratulations, What can I do for you guys? And they said, well, we don't have the money to make the second order. I said, oh, okay. Well, that factoring thing we were talking about, maybe that's a situation where, it would be beneficial for you to take advantage of it. Now, there's a cost associated with it, of course.
Yeah.
But, what is the opportunity that you paying that factoring fee is going to allow you? Well, the opportunity is going to allow you to get another $65,000 order.
Yep.
So they came along and said, all right, let's do it. So we went ahead, got them set up. We purchased the Target paper. We gave them their money. They were able to go fulfill the Hudson Bay order. Life is great, right?
hopefully it was not Sears.
No, Hudson Bay. Yeah, Sears is another one bites the dust,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, we went ahead. We gave them their money. We waited the 65 days. When 65 days came, poof, there is no more Target.
Oh,
Oh,
shoot.
man.
Target has gone belly up.
And was
Yeah.
it non-recourse?
Well, they were non-recourse. So JD Factors took the hit on that deal. However, our client, the small business, was able to keep the money that we gave them,
Yeah.
fulfill that order, and then still get paid from Hudson Bay.
And you still have them as a customer no matter what. They're going to come back to you. So it still pays off. in a
Well,
way.
hey,
Except JD lost a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
we took the loss, but we're fully aware and fully understanding that there is an element of risk. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, every company that applies is accepted, because it's simple a matter of risk tolerance.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's collection agencies, because there's companies there that don't pay their bills.
Don't pay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with that whole deal thing with Target, were you guys able to put them in collections, or
Well, they're
was it
Yeah.
absolutely okay? So that's how you do it.
Well, no. So depending on the size
Yeah.
and what the amount is, but in terms of Target, you can imagine the size of the organization, the amount
There's
of
no way,
creditors that
yeah.
were there, and we're
can't get
unsecured
anything.
as a creditor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you can take negative points on the dollar if you wanted, because if that's the headache
Yeah.
and the cost it's going to take, or you just simply write it off and,
Write it off and leave it
call
there.
it a day.
Well, you know what, and that happens with these large companies. I've had the same thing happen with Sears. So the day Sears went out of business, we had creditors lining up at the door,
Yeah.
and they were saying, "Oh, we have a $400,000 bill. We have a $1 million bill. Take it." And we're thinking, like, what are we going to do? Nothing.
Right. You're going to dial the phone and they're going to say, hey, contact our trustee, and that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to say there's no money.
It's terrible.
They don't
Well,
have
even-
anything.
Even Forever 21, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Just happened, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, the rise to fame, I think they were doing like their net worth of the two owners was like 4.4 billion.
Jesus.
And then next thing you know, it's only 400 million, but still like
Oh yeah,
Forever
some
20
money went missing.
Yeah.
Offshore, I
Seriously.
guess. Completely
Interesting.
offshore.
Yeah, wasn't there a UK company, a Pizza Express or something? It turns out that they have debts of $1 billion. They have 420
place?
chains.
I don't know about that in the UK.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just read that this morning.
Oh,
That
okay.
must be
easy,
some
just-
really good pepperoni.
Yeah.
yeah.
So easy just to hide money though and be like, oh,
Well, these guys just
we
had
don't,
debt.
it's just we don't have it.
They just
Yeah.
had debt. But just imagine if Jamie Oliver can go bankrupt.
Right.
This is true.
Then you don't know who is not going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I always say, right? I always tell my clients, I say, listen, I'm not here to tell you your customers are bad. I'm not, you know, but the fact of the matter is, you know, everyone wants to believe that their customers will never leave them high and dry.
Yeah.
But, you know, think about it in a personal experience. If you're pushed up against the wall and you can either save yourself or save, I don't know, your customer, like,
You're saving yourself.
Yeah.
right,
well,
right.
yeah.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes people tend to think that they're immune to that, and, you know, they develop those relationships, and that's what business is.
Yeah.
It's those relationships, but, you know, at a certain point, it's feast or famine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I see it, at least.
It's true.
So obviously, JD Factors looks at their situation before taking them on as a client, right? So you're looking at who they're billing, what kind of paper you're buying, right? Now, my question would be, who can use factoring, number one, and when should a company or when should a small business decide to actually use factoring? I mean, in this case, it was pretty obvious that they made the right choice, but when is that point when a company should say, hey, you know what, I'm selling my invoices right now. That's it.
Yeah, that's a great question, Greg. So there's a couple facets to it. So first off, factoring can be used for businesses that are either experiencing a hyper growth. You know, they're growing, their customers love their product and they're outgrowing. So they have traditional financing through banks or lines of credit or what otherwise. But as we all know, the banks are generally like an umbrella on a sunny day.
Yeah.
You know, when you don't need the money, they want to give you some.
Yeah.
And when it's raining outside and you need that money, you
They
need
don't
that
want to
help,
give you anything.
they don't want to give you anything.
Yeah.
So in the scenario where it's hyper growth, these guys are growing. They're outgrown their line. So JD Factors can essentially come in and act as their cash lender, allowing them to continue that growth so that they continue to grow rather than peaking out and stalling and saying, I can't do this order because I don't have enough cash to put in
Right.
the inventory.
Yeah.
A new business that can't afford to wait. You know, the cash flow just isn't there. You know, they have all of these expenditures. They've just opened up shop, got a fancy new studio, some fancy equipment, whatever the case may be. They can't afford to wait 30 days, even 7 days sometimes.
Yeah.
So that would
Is
be
that how bad that is?
Well, it's all a case by case, right? Depending on what
Have you
you're-
seen cases like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the staffing industry is pretty tight because you have to pay your guys every week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to pay your
Right.
guys every week.
So that's like
Oh my God.
what do you call it? An employment agency.
That's right,
Yeah.
a temporary
Yeah.
staffing place.
Temp agencies, yeah.
I've worked for a lot of those in the past.
Guilty
I'd be
as
like,
well.
I want my money, man.
I remember
Yeah.
going and picking up a check like on a Tuesday. You know,
Yeah.
it's like these people don't have jobs. They're
Yeah.
they're temp job, right? So they need that money.
You need to give me that
Yeah.
money.
And if you don't pay your guys,
Oh, you don't have no staff for the next week. They will quit on you.
they're going to
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
They're going to cause headaches with your
They're gonna-
customer.
yeah.
So for staffing, especially, it's a great industry to use factoring because
Yeah.
in staffing you can't undercut on wage.
Yeah.
There's a minimum wage.
That's
you know,
it.
Canada, we love it. You know, there's a minimum wage. So how do you then compete in terms of staffing? Well, you provide value to your customers, but more importantly, you extend terms.
Yeah.
So you may have a staffing client and they're paying you on 7 days. Well, then Carly comes by and says, hey, my staffing company will pay, you can pay me in 14 days.
Yeah.
They're going to say, all right, we're going to use her.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you say, okay, 30 days.
Yeah.
And now you're at 4 payrolls, 4 weekly
Yeah.
payrolls. So if you don't have the cash on hand,
Yeah,
how are
yeah.
you going to pay those guys?
Yeah.
That's
So
when
that's
you
where
come in.
factoring would come in. And that's where we would do it. And that's kind of how we do it. So hyper growth is a big one. New businesses that don't have adequate cash flows, another. And then lastly, we have some clients that we brought on and they've been clients with us 10 plus years. So
Yeah.
at first, when they first brought it on, it was a cash crunch. And then they grew to the point where the banks were fighting over their business.
Wow.
But they stayed with JD because of the service levels that they received.
Yeah.
That and they don't have to spend salary on a accounting team or a
Right.
AR team.
Yeah.
They simply say, okay, JD, here's our invoices. Give us the money.
You deal with it.
Go collect it. And that's it. So now the salary expense that they would have been spending on, they now are putting into the factoring cost. So they get their money right away. They don't have to worry about bad debt. And they don't have the headaches of collecting.
Yeah.
So do you recommend that a company that has a large receivables or accounting department, mostly receivables, I would think, do you recommend them to actually switch to factoring or no?
It's all a case by case basis, but the way I see it is that if you're carrying a large accounts receivable balance, you're essentially financing your customer's business.
Yeah.
They're using your money to do their business,
yeah.
whereas you have a piece of paper that says you're owed money, but all it is just a piece of paper that says you owe money.
Yeah.
You can't go to the store and buy
Can't do
something
anything
with
with
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so why would you do that? Why would you carry that balance? Why would you forward it?
Yeah.
So that I would say that if you're carrying a large receivable balance and you do have customers that tend to stretch it out a little bit, you may look at factoring as an option to free up some cash because if you have those customers that pay you like clockwork in 30 days or 15 days or whatever it is, great. Those are the customers we all want, we all wish we had. But in reality, they're few and far between. So
Yeah.
you want to be able to go ahead and determine whether or not your DSO, Dale Sales Outstanding, is high for your industry or high for your business. And that'd be an indicator that would determine whether or not you should factor.
Again, a question. Sorry, I'm
Ask
just
away. I'm
very
here for it.
inquisitive
I
on
love it.
this.
I love it. I love it.
But my question is, do you ever get flack from companies where you're sending the invoice? So let's say you purchased this company's invoices,
Yep.
and now JD is sending out the invoices, and this company receives the invoice and says, "Who are you? You're I never did business with you. Why are you collecting on me? Like
That's
I
right.
don't owe you money."
Yeah. So that definitely comes up. The way we combat that is that, well, twofold. First and foremost, I always recommend my clients to give a warm introduction to JD Factors. So as we're setting up the file, we want to get to know who your customer base is and understand what the arrangements are in terms of pay, because we go in as an extension of your business. We're not a collection agency.
Right.
Okay. We're very customer service focused and very centric in regards to that. So that's something that we would take our pride and go into, is our customer service and lack of bulldog collections, as you will. Collection agencies probably don't want to hear that. That's the way you got to do it sometimes. But for us, it's very much a factoring basis customer service approach. So I rambled off here. I forgot the second part of your question.
Well, I mean, the question really is, do you ever get flack?
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So in order to better understand that, again, it comes back to our discussion with the client. It's 2019. HR is outsourced.
Everything's outsourced.
Yeah.
IT is outsourced.
It is.
Yeah.
Accounts receivable management is outsourced. So it's about the phrasing, right? At first, there was a big stigma in regards to, you're factoring or there's an issue. Well, the fact of the matter is that the more and more that there's payment terms and the longer and longer they get extended, people are going to need this factoring service. So it's always about how you phrase it with the customer. I always advise a client to kind of say, hey, customer, we're growing here in our office. in order to make sure that we maintain a high level of customer service, we've awarded JD Factors an accounts receivable management contract. Please release any information to them that they request.
Okay, so
sounds
like a nice
nice.
soft introduction.
So that way, it's like, hey, that customer can understand that, hey, I want to be serviced at the same level.
Yeah.
As long as nothing changes on our end, we're good to go. So to answer your question in regards to the flack, as long as it's open dialogue, there generally isn't. But there are some of those dinosaurs out there that kind of say, nope, I did work with you, or that's it. And
Yeah.
They're probably using that as an excuse, though.
very much so. Very much so. Because also we deal with a little bit of the transportation space.
Right.
So a lot of the time, not a lot of times, on a few occasions, there are some transportation freight brokers that will not pay JD Factors.
Right.
And the reason for that, more often than not, is we report to the credit bureau. So we say, hey, Equifax ABC company is paying us in 93 days. And when someone pulls a credit check on those guys and sees that information, sees their PI
Yeah.
a little bit high,
They're like,
Not good.
we're not dealing with you.
that's
We're not
right. Or
leasing you any-
COD, or give me the money
Yeah.
first, or something
Yeah.
along that line. So
Give me some assurity.
because I don't know about you guys, but I would guess that it's at least 90%, maybe even higher, of companies that don't have a credit policy in place. Maybe you guys can speak on
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think so. Most of our clients that have credit policies are exceptions.
that. Okay.
In fact, many times we send them a sample. This is what you should be using, because we have to educate them.
That's right.
And it's always a surprise from them. Why would you tell us this when you're going to make less money on us? I mean, obviously, you want to be nice to your client, provide a proper service.
That's right.
But I've seen credit agreements and credit conditions that are terrible. There's no policy whatsoever, and it's basically, it's Deborah or Katie making that decision on the floor as they go.
That's right.
As opposed to having a corporate decision that goes, that
It's broad-based.
considers
and-
everything and is
Yeah.
broad-based. Yeah.
Well, I always say to my clients, when I'm pitching or whatever, and I'm the king of these one-liners, it just seems like today.
I
So
love
hopefully
them.
you gotta cut some
Yeah.
out. But I always say a sale is never a sale until you're paid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right? So, they can promise you all the money in the
Yeah,
world.
until there's cash in hand.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's to say cash is king, or
I don't-
cash flow king.
I don't know. The cash flow. I don't know if you've heard this, but we know of collection agencies that actually threw out clients such as like Scotiabank, CIBC, because they weren't paying on, normal terms. They were paying on 180, 210 to the collection agency.
Whoa.
Because, banks have these terms of gross dollars. They want all the money that's collected, and then they'll pay you.
That's right.
So I heard from one of our friends at one of the agencies, he said, you know what, it's not a client if they're not paying you. So I don't care what your name is, or if you've got a fancy, famous name,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You're not a client if
That's
you're
right.
not paying me.
100% agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
And
Right?
Definitely.
some of these banks, though, man, red tape city. Red
Yeah.
tape city.
Well, I mean, I'm sure all the banks make sure that they, push out their payables as much as they can. They're just a business, so it's not their fault, right? And then they get their receivables as soon as possible.
Raw.
That's just the game that everyone plays, right?
Yeah.
They make sure they get their money first.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's not a church; it's a
Yeah.
business, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, churches run like
Churches are the
business.
worst. What do
Come
you
on,
ta-
what do you mean?
Yeah,
churches
churches
don't do
are
nothing till they get their
businesses.
money.
Well, they are businesses. I don't know if you've met this guy, but there's a guy out there that actually makes software for churches that make sure that they know everybody that can pay them money.
Oh, wow.
And they know all the relatives of everyone in the
Holy
parish,
crap.
I guess.
So they're all done with the envelopes now. It's no more, hey,
It
pass
is.
It's
the
a
plate
cash
around.
app now.
And it's
just-
basically
just
a
it's
CRM
probably
software.
Wow.
So you can actually forecast how much money you can take in.
Wow.
It's a business.
Churches
That's-
are crazy, man. I don't
Church has always been a business, but aside
Yeah,
from that, it's
that's
probably
right,
an iPad now instead of like a plate.
I was going to say, where's the square, right?
And you just
square
tap.
off.
Yeah, yeah.
We
You
take
can-
Visa, Paytm, credit, whatever you want.
I don't know.
I
if they
remember
probably
that
do.
collection plate going around when I was a kid and just seeing like stacks of 20s. Just
Yeah.
like, I want it.
Wow. Do you think someone took from it?
Of course.
No.
Yeah, the pastor.
Yeah, literally the
whoa,
pastor.
Shots fired.
Ooh,
Oh, no.
we're bad to the church now.
Yeah, they might come after us. You better watch out.
Oh, no. I'm so
I
scared.
just watched a
We're in
release.
Hamilton. We're in Hamilton, not in Mississauga. Hamilton.
Not in Boston. We're fine.
Oh, man.
real.
Low blow.
So, as a last question, how does someone go about factoring? So, let's say we want to factor with you, or we decide, okay, let's try this. How do we approach you, or how do we approach a factoring company to say we want to factor?
That's a good question. So factoring is not for everyone. There are some requirements in regards to factoring. So for JD Factors specifically, it must be an incorporated business, first and foremost. They must be selling to other businesses, so B2B transactions. So no B2C, only B2B.
Right.
And the reason for that is public business information is public information. So we don't have to request permission to run a business credit
Nice.
credit
Right.
proposal, or excuse me, credit report. So
Right.
those are the first main indicators whether or not factoring would be accepted or an option. Then it would come down to the fit. What type of paperwork do you have in regards to what kind of backup documentation? Do you have purchase orders? Do you have accepted work completed? Stuff like that goes a long way because you have to understand we're giving out money for pieces of paper.
Right.
You're giving me a piece of paper that says $100,000. Well, if something goes sideways, I need to be able to go to the judge and say, "Hey, judge, look, this was the agreement for the $100,000. The work was done. They signed off that the work was done. They're just not paying me. What's going on?" So that would be a consideration in regards to paperwork as well. And then it comes down to more of the nitty-gritty, the underwriting side of things in terms of underwriting. So do you have current financial products in place? Generally, factoring companies require security against the asset they're purchasing, the receivable.
Really? Okay.
So we register our lien through the PPSA, similar to all other financial institutions. But if there's a first charge on receivables already, we need to either get a subordination or a discharge on that so that we're
You're
able to
first.
secure. That's correct.
Yeah.
And then that would be something that we would be able to do going forward. But more importantly, I think the first conversation has to be an understanding of the business. What is the reason we're speaking today? Why are we speaking about factoring? What is it that you're encountering? What is the problem? If it's a matter of, hey, my customers pay me in 7 days and it's just not fast enough, okay, well, that's a best case scenario for a factoring company because we're not going to wait any time to get paid.
Right.
Now, the client can't wait 7 days, so they're going to be paying for it, but it frees up the cash flow that they've deemed necessary. If it's a customer that's dealing, actually, you mentioned Sears earlier, and while Sears has been on and off bankruptcy protection the last
Right.
5 years, 6,
Seems like 10.
10, whenever, right?
Yeah.
They called me up and they said, "Hey, I have a PO for $250,000 for Sears." And I said, "Okay, what other customers do you have?" He's like, "Well, this is my only customer." I said, "Oh." So concentrate. The point I was getting at was concentration affects the potential for factoring. But for me, as a general principle, if you're an incorporated business and you sell to other businesses, I'm more than happy to understand your business and decide whether or not factoring would be a suitable fit or not. It very well could be that you require an alternate financing product, so purchase order financing or
I didn't know
asset-based
that
lending.
existed.
Yeah, so PO financing is pretty cool. There's a lot of restrictions on it, and it is not cheap. But if you get a PO for a finished good, then you can go ahead and source it from China. China won't ship it until you pay for the good. So if you have an order for $100,000 and China's charging you $50,000, you have to come up with $50,000 in order to have them ship it. So that's where PO financing would come in. And that's a tool that a lot of manufacturers or wholesalers are using now that it's easier to get to China.
Yeah.
And
Tanya,
get stuff from
Tanya,
China.
take note of this.
I am already taking
I
notes.
know.
You
I
know
see
me.
it. Mental notes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just sitting there like, feed me more.
No, you want to set up a business in Trinidad.
I
right?
am. I'm
Yeah.
already sourcing a lot of like Chinese distributors and stuff.
Oh, cool.
It's like a dollar store, discount store type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd be going on a B2C model, so you'd be selling on the front lines.
Yes, I would be.
Okay. So yeah, that would not qualify. But if let's say you were selling to
Yeah.
the Trinidad Dollaramas.
Yeah. Well, that's the eventual like.
Oh, you want to be
progression.
the Dollarama.
I want to be the
Dollarama.
first, and then I'll sell franchises and I'll supply. I'll be the main distribution point. But let me not give away the bag right now.
Yeah, let's talk about that once it's in motion.
Yes,
for sure.
sir.
Absolutely.
Talk about it once the mic's off.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. That was really
Yeah, that
interesting.
was great. I
We
loved
could
it.
ask a lot of questions, but I think how are we with time?
We're at 34 minutes.
Okay, I think we're.
I'm a
we're
talker.
right.
I'm sorry.
Don't
this is
apologize.
good. Don't.
No, this is great content.
I mean, it is a podcast. So
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're supposed to do.
yeah.
Well, I definitely feel like I've known you guys forever, so I feel like I could talk.
Come
forever.
by
It's like,
anytime,
I-
bro.
Yeah, seriously.
Anytime you'll have me, I'd love to talk about the marriages. Well, actually, before you let me go, I just wanted to talk about quickly if there are collectors out there that are struggling with some of those commercial clients. I know that when I was a collector, had I known about factoring, that would be the first call I would have made to say, hey, does this debtor qualify for factoring? Because at the end of the day, you want to collect money.
Yep.
That's how we all
That's
make money.
true.
Yeah, it's true.
So, if you want to understand how factoring can help your collection agency or your overall targets, reach out to me on
100%.
social, at the Cashflow King on Facebook, on Twitter, at cash_4, the number _AR. And I think I'm new to Instagram. I haven't posted anything yet. Video series is coming up soon.
Nice.
the _Cashflow King.
Perfect.
And can you give a phone number too? Just
Yeah, absolutely. Direct number would be 289-242-3178. So that's my cell. Feel free to shoot me a text. Just let me know who I'm speaking with, and then I'll get back to you as soon as possible and set up a conference call to discuss your needs.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Nice.
And what's ours?
Pay or get played.
No.
Oh
Not that.
That's our
No,
slogan.
it's the
Tanya's
wrong
sick
trigger.
today.
I'm sick. If you have any comments or suggestions or any just input, you can email us at chcron at
Nope, that's-
it's gbcron
that is-
at
What?
Incorrect.
Is it incorrect? I'm always
That is,
I'm
not
horrible at this.
it is gbpodcast@gobeyondcollect.com.
Oh my god, I created the
And
email.
We,
I
she
know.
did. We also have a Facebook page up and running, and we also have Instagram. It is Collection Chronicles.
At us.
We're very active on Instagram, so
Very, very. And Facebook.
yes.
I have to say, I saw some of those Facebook posts, and I love that little excuse of the week or excuse
Oh, yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
I love that.
Do you have an excuse just as a sign
Yeah,
off?
give us
Oh
something.
man.
Because you must have heard a lot.
I you know what? There was a CFL football player that I was collecting on. And
Oh
he's,
no.
Well, and you think, right? It's like, oh, you're a professional athlete.
Oh, they
But
don't
now
got no money.
It's CFL, right?
Yeah.
So I got it twisted. But yeah, no, it was kind of like, well, if I get this team, then I can pay for sure. But if not, then I have another tryout the following day. So I'll let you know. And this guy is living his dream. He's
Imagine
probably
living your life that way, though, financially. Like,
yeah. They can make it work, but some of them are just very irresponsible.
Zach Hernandez, get your stuff in gear. Fix up.
called out.
Oh no. He got
Maybe
called
he
out.
did.
We
don't know.
I think we have to cut that out.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think we have to cut
No,
it
that
out.
was my brother. That was my brother. I should have said it. It wasn't a football player.
No.
Oh,
We're
okay,
good.
good. Then we're
Jeez,
good.
Oh,
You're
okay.
fine.
Whew.
All right,
tell-
if there is a CFL football player, Zach Hernandez, I'm sorry.
This is my formal apology.
So that CFL player was that player from the Lions?
I believe this was from our Oski Wee Wee
Ooh.
Tie Cats.
Okay, let's end this because
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
stories.
Oh,
Done.
fire.
All right.
Okay. So
Thank you, everyone.
As always, thank you for being here, Christian.
Thanks for having me.
So as our motto is, pay or get played.
Boom.